The darkness of the Chicago alley swallowed everything but the pain. Officer Logan Carter's breath came in ragged gasps as his trembling fingers pressed against the wound below his ribs, warm blood seeping between them despite his efforts. Each heartbeat pushed more life out of him onto the cold concrete. His radio lay shattered 3 feet away. No backup, no way to call for help. No one knew where he was. No one except Titan. The German Shepherd stood over him, ears forward, muscles coiled with tension. The dog's intelligent eyes reflected understanding no animal should possess. His partner was dying. A low whine escaped Titan's throat as he nudged Logan's pale face with his muzzle. Time was running out. Logan's eyelids grew heavier with each labored breath. "Go," Logan whispered, his voice barely audible. "Find help, boy." Titan hesitated, torn between protection and salvation. Then, with one final look at his fallen handler, the shepherd bolted into the night, a shadow among shadows, carrying Logan's only hope with him through the maze of city streets. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments along with the city you're watching from. Now let's continue with the story. Officer Logan Carter hadn't always been alone in the world. Before the badge, before Titan, he'd been Staff Sergeant Carter, decorated Army Ranger with 2 tours in Afghanistan. The military had been his family until an IED took half his unit and left him with shrapnel scars across his back and nightmares that medication couldn't touch. Honorable discharge papers didn't heal invisible wounds. Back in civilian life, Logan built walls higher than Chicago's skylines, keeping colleagues at arm's length, girlfriends at 2. The police force became his new mission, but the hollow feeling remained. He moved through life like a ghost in his own story, until the day Captain Reynolds assigned him to K-9 training against his wishes. "Dogs sense weakness," Logan had protested. Reynolds had just smiled. Titan's story began in darkness. Animal control officers found him chained in a basement of a drug house raid, half-starved, beaten, used as both guard and punching bag for a local dealer. Most German Shepherds in his condition would have been deemed too dangerous, too damaged for rehabilitation. The shelter had scheduled euthanasia, citing extreme aggression and unpredictable behavior. But something in those amber eyes caught the attention of the K-9 unit coordinator who visited that day. Not aggression, but intelligence. Pain, but possibility. Still, 3 trainers had already given up on the shepherd when Logan first met him. The dog lunged, teeth bared at everyone who approached. "This one's too far gone," they told him. Logan recognized something in that fury, a reflection of his own pain. Where others saw a lost cause, Logan saw a kindred spirit. "Give me 2 weeks," he'd said. 2 weeks became 5 years. Together they became legends in the Chicago PD, the silent officer and his shadow. 6 drug busts, 4 missing children found, 2 officer rescues. They communicated without words, sensing each other's thoughts before commands were spoken. Other officers joked that Titan knew what suspects were thinking before they did. The duo kept to themselves, ate alone in the break room, rarely joined after-shift drinks. But on the streets they were poetry in motion. Titan anticipating Logan's every move, Logan trusting Titan's instincts without question. Would die for each other, the department said. Neither Logan nor Titan knew how soon that dedication would be tested. The briefing room hummed with tension as Captain Reynolds pinned photos of known Westside Disciples members to the board. Logan sat in the back corner, Titan at his feet, both perfectly still while other officers shifted restlessly in their seats. This wasn't just another drug bust. This was Miguel Vasquez, the ghost who'd eluded Chicago PD for 3 years. His product had killed 27 people last month alone, including a councilman's teenage daughter. "Intel puts Vasquez at this warehouse tonight," Reynolds said, tapping a grainy surveillance photo. "One shot at this, people. We move at midnight." Officer Daniel Briggs leaned toward Logan. "Just like old times, partner? You and Titan take point?" Logan nodded, noticing how Titan's ears twitched at Briggs' voice. Strange. The shepherd usually relaxed around Briggs. They'd been friends for 4 years, worked dozens of cases together. After the briefing, Reynolds called Logan aside. "Keep that dog under tight control tonight, Carter. Commissioner Wallace is watching this operation." "Titan's never been out of control, sir." "Until he is," Reynolds retorted. "Remember, these K-9s are equipment, not people. If something feels off, you follow protocol, not the dog's hunches." Logan's jaw tightened. With all due respect, Captain, Titan's instincts have saved more lives than protocol. Reynolds stepped closer. 5 years ago, I took a chance on you and that rescue mutt when nobody else would. Don't make me regret it. He glanced at Titan, who stared back unblinkingly. Something about that animal? Sometimes I swear he understands every word. Logan didn't answer. Few people understood the bond between handler and K9. It wasn't something that could be explained to someone who saw dogs as tools. Back at his locker, Logan checked his gear methodically. Vest, radio, sidearm, Titan's protective equipment. Each item inspected twice, the ritual before every dangerous operation. Briggs approached, coffee in hand. Nervous about tonight? Briggs asked. No, Logan replied, noticing a slight tremor in Briggs's hand. You? Nah, just caffeine jitters. Briggs's phone buzzed. He checked it, face tightening momentarily. Gotta take this. See you at staging. As Briggs hurried away, Titan growled softly. What is it, boy? Logan knelt beside him, that following the shepherd's gaze. Nothing seemed out of place, yet Titan's hackles remained raised. You sensing something? The dog whined low in his throat, their private signal for danger. Logan had learned years ago not to dismiss it. At 11:30 p.m., tactical vehicles rolled out, moonlight gleaming off bulletproof vests and determined expressions. Logan sat in the second van, Titan pressed against his leg. The shepherd's body felt unusually tense, his breathing slightly elevated. Logan placed a calming hand on his neck, but the dog remained rigid. Unit 4, do you have eyes on the target? The radio crackled as they approached the warehouse district. Negative, Logan responded. We're moving in. He turned to the team. Titan and I take the east entrance. Briggs, cover the loading dock. Martinez and Wilson, west side. Everyone clear? Nods all around. The van stopped a block away, close enough for quick access, far enough to avoid detection. As they filed out, Logan noticed Briggs checking his phone again, angling it away from the others. The warehouse loomed ahead, its broken windows like vacant eyes watching their approach. Titan led the way, nose working the air currents, body low to the ground. Every few steps he would pause, ears swiveling like radar dishes. The dog's behavior amplified Logan's growing unease. Something was wrong. The air felt too still, the night too quiet. Anything, boy? Logan whispered. Titan's ears twitched, head turning sharply toward the east entrance. Not aggression, confusion, as if something didn't match what his senses were telling him. Logan tapped his radio. Briggs, what's your position? Static. Then, almost at the loading dock, all clear so far. Martinez? West entrance secured, no movement. Logan approached the east door, Titan now moving with exaggerated caution, each paw placement deliberate. Through his earpiece, Logan heard the controlled breathing of his team, the soft rustle of tactical gear. He counted down silently, 3, 2, 1, then nodded to Officer Wilson, who eased the door open. Darkness greeted them. The expected guard was absent. The interior space appeared empty of life, dust motes floating in the beam of their tactical lights. Titan's posture changed instantly, head low, tail straight, body vibrating with tension. Something's off, Logan whispered into his radio. Titan's signaling. Everyone hold position. Negative, came the captain's voice. We proceed as planned. We're committed. Logan hesitated, torn between orders and instinct. Titan had never been wrong. Moving in, he finally responded, giving Titan the command to advance. The shepherd prowled forward, nose testing the air, leading them deeper into the warehouse. Logan followed, senses hyper-alert. The silence felt like a physical weight. East section clear. He reported after checking the first area, moving to central space. That's when he noticed it, the faint chemical smell beneath the dust and mildew. Not the expected odor of drugs, but something else. Something out of place. Titan froze suddenly, a low growl rumbling in his chest. Fall back, Logan ordered into his radio. Something's not. His words died as a figure materialized from behind a stack of crates. Not Vasquez, not a gang member, it was Briggs. Pistol drawn, eyes cold in the beam of Logan's flashlight. Briggs, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be at the loading dock. Change of plans, Logan. Briggs's voice sounded different, harder. Drop your weapon. Call off the dog. Confusion gave way to horrific understanding as more figures emerged from the shadows. Westside Disciples members, all armed. The entire operation was a setup. How long? Logan asked, mind racing through options, all bad. Long enough. The money's good. Better than a cop's pension. Briggs gestured with his gun. Nothing personal, just business. Titan's muscles bunched, ready to launch at Briggs, but Logan kept him steady with a hand signal. 5 armed men, no way out. The radio remained silent. Had the others walked into similar traps? The captain will figure it out, Logan said, playing for time. You won't get away with this. Briggs laughed. Reynolds is old school, trusts his officers. By the time he realizes what happened, we'll be long gone. Now drop your weapon or I drop you. Logan slowly lowered his gun, mind frantically searching for an escape. As his weapon touched the ground, Titan growled. Not at Briggs, but toward the shadows behind Logan. Too late, he started to turn. The gunshot echoed through the warehouse. Fire exploded in Logan's side, just below his protective vest. He staggered, hand clutching at the spreading wetness. Titan erupted into action, lunging toward the shooter as more gunfire erupted. Logan fell to his knees, the world tilting sideways. Through fading consciousness, he saw Titan fighting, heard shouts and running feet. Then strong jaws carefully dragging him toward the door, the German Shepherd somehow creating enough chaos to extract his fallen handler. The last thing Logan remembered was the cold night air on his face as Titan pulled him into an alleyway. The loyal Shepherd standing guard over him, eyes burning in the darkness. The worst betrayal wasn't the bullet. It was knowing who had fired it. Logan's consciousness ebbed and flowed like a tide, each wave pulling him further from shore. The cold pavement beneath him might as well have been an ocean, his blood the dark water spreading around him. His hands trembled as he pressed against the wound, each breath a shallow, painful victory against the growing darkness. Titan, he whispered, voice barely audible above the distant sirens that seemed to be heading in the wrong direction. The German Shepherd whined, nudging Logan's face with his snout, eyes reflecting the streetlight at the end of the alley. The dog's warm breath against Logan's cheek felt like the only heat left in the world. Logan had seen enough gunshot wounds to know this one was bad. The bullet had torn through his lower left side, missing the vest's protection by mere inches. Briggs knew exactly where to aim, the vulnerable area between tactical gear. The thought of his former friend's betrayal sent a different kind of pain through him, sharper than the physical wound. Dispatch. Logan mumbled into his shoulder mic, but the radio had been damaged in the struggle. Nothing but static answered his call. The night grew colder, each breath more difficult than the last. He couldn't feel his legs anymore, and the numbness was creeping upward. Bad sign. Titan circled him restlessly, alternating between standing guard and returning to nuzzle Logan's face. The Shepherd's ears pivoted constantly, tracking sounds beyond human perception. Twice he growled at shadows, positioning his body between Logan and potential threats. But protection wasn't enough. Not this time. Find help, Logan managed, each word costing precious energy. Titan, find help. The dog whined, clearly conflicted. 5 years of training insisted he never leave his handler's side in danger. 5 years of bonding made abandonment unthinkable. Yet Titan's intelligent eyes seemed to grasp the terrible choice before him. Stay and watch Logan die, or leave and risk returning too late. Logan's fingers found Titan's thick fur, gripping weakly. It's okay, boy. Go. The Shepherd looked down the alley, then back at Logan. Blood pooled beneath the officer now, his skin growing paler by the minute. Decision made, Titan gently licked Logan's face once, a gesture so tender it might have been a goodbye, then turned and bolted into the night. The moment Titan left the alley, instinct took over. The German Shepherd's powerful legs carried him through the urban landscape with single-minded determination, nose sampling the air for familiar scents. Downtown Chicago at night was a maze of smells, sounds, and dangers, but Titan had one purpose that superseded all training and self-preservation: find help for Logan. He ran first toward the warehouse district, hoping to find other officers from the operation, but the area had emptied in the chaos following the betrayal. Sirens wailed in multiple directions, confusing even Titan's sensitive ears. He changed course, heading toward the familiar route of their patrol sector, where other units might be found. The cold air burned in his lungs as he pushed his body to its limits, dodging between parked cars, leaping over chain-link fences with the grace of an animal half his size. A passing taxi driver swerved and honked as the Shepherd darted across an intersection against the light. Titan ignored it, focused only on his mission. With each block, precious seconds of Logan's life ticked away. The shepherd paused at a street corner, ears forward, processing the urban soundscape. Distant shouting, traffic, music from bars, but nothing useful. Then, a police siren growing louder. Titan changed direction immediately, racing toward the sound. 2 blocks later, disaster struck. As Titan rounded a corner at full speed, a startled homeless man swung his shopping cart defensively. The metal frame caught the shepherd mid-stride, sending him tumbling across the sidewalk with a yelp of pain. Titan struggled to his feet, favoring his right front leg. A less determined animal might have stopped, but the image of Logan bleeding in the alley drove him forward, limping but still running. The pain in his leg grew worse with each step, but Titan pushed through it, his pace slowing but determination undiminished. The siren he'd been following faded. The patrol car had moved on. Opportunity lost. Titan changed tactics, heading for the one place he knew would have officers, the precinct. It was 20 blocks away, an impossible distance given his injury, but the shepherd ran on. 17 blocks later, Titan's strength was failing. His injured leg could barely take weight, his breathing ragged, foam flecking his muzzle. But then, a miracle. A familiar scent caught his attention, pulling him down a side street toward a 24-hour diner. Officer Daniel Martinez sat in his patrol car, finishing paperwork while on his dinner break. The last person he expected to see was Titan, running toward him with a pronounced limp, no handler in sight. Titan? Martinez stepped out of his vehicle as the shepherd reached him, barking urgently. "Where's Logan? What happened, boy?" Titan grabbed Martinez's sleeve in his teeth, pulling with desperate strength. The universal canine signal, "Follow me." Martinez didn't hesitate. If Titan was alone and acting like this, Logan was in trouble. He radioed dispatch immediately, Unit 8 requesting backup. K9 Titan has appeared without Officer Carter, possible officer down. Then to Titan, lead the way. The shepherd took off, pushing through his pain, looking back frequently to ensure Martinez followed. The officer trailed him in the patrol car at first, but soon the route took them down alleys too narrow for vehicles. Martinez continued on foot, gun drawn, following the determined animal through Chicago's urban maze. "How much further?" Martinez asked after 5 minutes of increasingly urgent pursuit. Titan answered by redoubling his efforts, his limp worsening but pace quickening. They turned one final corner, and there, crumpled against a brick wall at the alley's end, lay Logan. "Officer down!" Martinez shouted into his radio, sprinting toward the fallen figure. "Alley off West Harrison, near Damon Avenue. Need ambulance, officer down with GSW." Titan reached Logan first, whining as he nuzzled the officer's face. Logan's eyes were closed, his skin gray in the dim light, blood soaking his uniform and the pavement beneath him. Martinez dropped to his knees, checking for a pulse with shaking fingers. "Still alive," he breathed, immediately applying pressure to the wound. "Logan, can you hear me? It's Martinez. Help is coming." Logan's eyelids fluttered but didn't open. His breathing came in shallow, irregular gasps. "Stay with me, Carter," Martinez urged, pressing harder against the wound. "Your dog did good. Titan found me. Help's on the way." At the mention of his name, Titan pressed closer to Logan, his warm body offering what little comfort he could provide. The shepherd's mission was complete, but the night's ordeal wasn't over. In the distance, sirens approached, this time heading in the right direction. Martinez looked up at Titan, noting the dog's injured leg and exhausted condition. "You're hurt too, aren't you? But you still found help." He shook his head in disbelief. 15 blocks at least with that leg. I don't know how you did it." The shepherd didn't acknowledge the praise, his focus entirely on Logan, whose life continued to seep away despite Martinez's efforts. Titan licked his handler's face again, whining softly, willing him to hold on. As the ambulance screeched to a halt at the alley entrance, its flashing lights painting the walls and alternating red and white, Martinez made a decision that would later bring him into conflict with department policy. "This dog rides with him," he told the paramedics as they rushed over with equipment. "Try to separate them, and I promise you'll regret it." The lead paramedic took one look at Titan's protective stance over Logan and nodded. "Just keep him out of our way." Within minutes, Logan was on a stretcher, oxygen mask over his face, IVs in both arms, the paramedics working frantically to stabilize him before transport. Titan limped alongside, refusing to be more than a foot from Logan's side. When they loaded the stretcher into the ambulance, the shepherd jumped in without invitation, positioning himself near Logan's head. One paramedic reached to remove him, but Martinez intervened. That dog just ran miles through the city with an injured leg to save his partner. He's earned the right to stay. As the ambulance doors closed, Martinez caught a final glimpse of Titan, standing guard over his unconscious handler. The loyalty in that image would stay with him forever, a wounded animal refusing to yield to pain, distance, or impossible odds to save the one person who had once saved him. Martinez radioed in as the ambulance pulled away. "Captain, you need to know, Officer Carter has been shot, condition critical. And something else. Titan is injured too." Back in the ambulance, as the paramedics fought to keep Logan alive, Titan maintained his vigil. His mission wasn't complete. It wouldn't be complete until Logan opened his eyes again. The emergency room doors burst open as paramedics wheeled Logan's stretcher through, their voices urgent but controlled. GSW to lower left abdomen, significant blood loss, BP 80/40 and dropping, pulse thready, O2 sat 89%. Medical staff swarmed around them immediately, a choreographed chaos of practiced movements. No one noticed Titan at first, limping alongside the stretcher, his dark fur matted with Logan's blood, until a nurse stepped in his path. "Hey, you can't have a dog in here," she exclaimed, reaching to block the shepherd. Titan growled low in his throat, not aggressive but unmistakably determined. The paramedic who'd allowed him into the ambulance intervened. "This is Officer Carter's canine partner. The dog found help when Carter was shot. Wouldn't leave his side." "I don't care if he's Lassie," the nurse replied. "Hospital regulations clearly state he stays." Captain Reynolds' authoritative voice cut through the argument as he strode into the ER, having rushed from the warehouse district after receiving Martinez's call. His weathered face showed uncharacteristic concern as he surveyed Logan's pale form being transferred to a trauma bay. "That dog just saved my officer's life." The nurse looked to the attending physician, who was already cutting away Logan's uniform. The doctor glanced at Titan, then back to his patient's critical condition. "Keep him out of the way, and someone check if the animal's injured too. Looks like he's favoring that front leg." As the trauma team worked frantically to stabilize Logan, Titan positioned himself in the corner of the room, amber eyes never leaving his handler. His own injury seemed forgotten as he watched the medical team insert tubes, hang blood bags, and call out vital signs that meant nothing to him but clearly concerned the humans. When Logan was rushed to emergency surgery 30 minutes later, Titan tried to follow, only to be stopped at the OR doors. "He can't go in there," the surgeon said firmly. "Sterile environment. He waits outside." Reynolds nodded, placing a restraining hand on Titan's collar. The shepherd strained against the hold, a high whine escaping his throat as Logan disappeared from view. For the first time that night, Titan's composure broke. He barked sharply, pulling toward the doors with such force that Reynolds struggled to hold him. "Easy, boy," the captain murmured, surprising himself with the gentleness in his voice. He'd never been a dog person, had always viewed canines as department equipment rather than officers. But watching Titan's distress as he lost sight of Logan stirred something unexpected in the veteran cop. "He's fighting. You did your part. Let the doctors do theirs now." Titan's resistance gradually subsided, though his body remained tense, eyes fixed on the doors separating him from Logan. Reynolds led him to the waiting area, where other officers had begun to gather, their faces grim. Martinez was giving his statement to Internal Affairs about finding Logan and Titan. The betrayal by Officer Briggs had shocked the entire department, triggering an urgent manhunt and investigation. As they waited, a young nurse named Emily Morgan approached cautiously. Unlike the ER nurse, her expression held compassion rather than bureaucratic concern. "I'm from the surgical floor," she explained to Reynolds. "I heard what happened. I worked at a veterinary clinic through college, and that shepherd needs medical attention. His leg might be broken." Reynolds looked at Titan, who stood rigidly despite the obvious pain in his stance. The captain sighed. "He won't leave this spot while his handler's in surgery." Emily knelt slowly, meeting Titan at eye level. "I understand," she said softly, not to Reynolds but to the dog. But you won't help him by ignoring your own injuries. She reached into her pocket, producing a small treat. May I? Reynolds nodded permission, surprised when Titan accepted the offering without hesitation, something he rarely did with strangers. Emily gently examined the injured leg, her movements careful and confident. Titan allowed the examination, though his attention remained divided, ears constantly swiveling toward the OR doors. Likely a hairline fracture, she concluded. He needs an X-ray to confirm, but I can at least stabilize it for now. I'll bring supplies. She stood, addressing Reynolds directly. And I'll talk to administration about getting permission for him to stay on the surgical floor. We have protocols for service animals, which technically he is. Appreciate it, Reynolds replied, finding himself reevaluating his stance on K9s as he watched Titan's steadfast vigil. Perhaps they weren't just equipment after all. The surgery stretched into its 4th hour. Most officers had returned to duty, the search for Briggs taking priority. Only Reynolds remained with Titan, who hadn't moved from his spot despite Emily's ministrations to his leg, now wrapped in a professional splint. The shepherd's endurance was remarkable. No food, no water, no rest since the operation began. Just unwavering vigilance. Finally, the surgeon emerged, surgical mask dangling around his neck, exhaustion evident in his posture. Reynolds stood immediately, Titan rising beside him. The dog's attention laser-focused on the doctor's face as if he could interpret the news from the man's expression. He's alive, the surgeon began, running a hand through his hair. The bullet did significant damage to his liver and nicked his intestine. We repaired what we could, but he's not out of the woods. Next 24 hours are critical. He's lost a lot of blood, and there's high risk of infection. When can we see him? Reynolds asked. He's in recovery now, then moving to ICU. Family only in ICU. The surgeon glanced at Titan, whose intensity hadn't wavered, though in this case I suspect that includes the dog. True to her word, Emily had arranged special dispensation for Titan. By the time Logan was transferred to the ICU, a small bed had been placed beside his room for the shepherd. But Titan ignored it, instead jumping onto the foot of Logan's bed the moment they were alone, careful to avoid disturbing the tubes and wires keeping his handler alive. The night nurse started to object, but Emily intervened. He won't disturb anything, she promised. German shepherds are incredibly body-aware, and having him close might actually help Officer Carter. So began Titan's second vigil. Days passed, blending together in the sterile sameness of the ICU. Logan remained unconscious, his body fighting to recover from trauma and surgery. Titan left his side only when forced to relieve himself. And even then, he hurried back as if afraid Logan might disappear in those brief moments. He refused food unless Emily brought it to the room. And even then ate minimally, as if sustenance were an unwelcome distraction from his duty. Officers rotated through, visiting their fallen colleague, each bringing updates on the investigation. Briggs had vanished, but evidence of his corruption was mounting. Bank records showed suspicious deposits coinciding with drug busts where evidence had mysteriously disappeared. The West Side Disciples connection was confirmed. Briggs had been on their payroll for at least 2 years. On the 4th day, Emily arrived for her shift to find Titan in unusual agitation. The shepherd paced between the bed and the door, whining softly, his movements jerky with urgency. "What is it, boy?" she asked, checking Logan's monitors. All readings were stable, unchanged from her last shift. Yet Titan's behavior suggested otherwise. The dog returned to Logan's side, nosing at his hand, then looked back at Emily with an almost human desperation in his eyes. She placed a gentle hand on Logan's forehead. No fever. His color seemed slightly better than yesterday. Then, as she adjusted his blanket, she noticed what Titan had already sensed. Logan's fingers were twitching, almost imperceptibly, against the shepherd's fur. "Doctor?" Emily called into the hallway. "I think he's waking up." The medical team rushed in, checking vital signs and neurological responses. Titan refused to be moved from the bed, watching intently as they examined Logan. Slowly, miraculously, Logan's eyelids fluttered, then opened to mere slits. Disorientation clouded his gaze until it landed on Titan. Recognition sparked immediately. "Titan," he whispered, voice raspy from days of intubation. His hand lifted weakly, finding the shepherd's fur. Titan whined softly, pressing his head against Logan's palm. "Officer Carter," the doctor said, leaning into Logan's field of vision. You're at Chicago Memorial. You've been unconscious for 4 days. Do you remember what happened? Logan's brow furrowed with effort. Shot, he managed. Briggs betrayed us. His focus returned to Titan. You found help. The shepherd's tail gave a single wag, the first sign of happiness he'd shown since the night of the shooting. Emily wasn't the only one in the room with tears in her eyes as she watched the reunion. Even the normally stoic doctor seemed moved by the bond between Handler and K9. Your dog hasn't left your side, the doctor told Logan. Refused to eat or sleep properly. The nurses say he watches the monitors like he understands them. Logan's hand tightened slightly in Titan's fur. He does, he whispered. Understands everything. His eyelids grew heavy again, the brief moment of consciousness taxing his depleted strength. Rest now, the doctor advised. You've got a long recovery ahead, but the worst is behind you. As Logan drifted back to sleep, Titan settled more comfortably against him, the vigilant tension in the shepherd's body finally easing. For the first time in days, the dog closed his eyes, allowing himself to rest now that Logan had returned to him. Emily stayed a moment longer, watching the pair. I've never seen anything like it, she said softly to the doctor as they left the room. It's like they share something deeper than training. Medical literature has cases of dogs detecting illness before diagnostic tests, sensing seizures before they happen, the doctor replied. But this, he glanced back at the room, this goes beyond science. What no one in the hospital realized yet was that Titan had a secret of his own. During the nights when the ICU quieted, when the shepherd pressed close to Logan's side, a dark stain sometimes appeared on the white sheets, blood from a wound hidden beneath thick fur. The injury from the shopping cart collision was more serious than Emily had detected, and running miles on the fractured leg had caused internal damage. But Titan's focus on Logan allowed him to mask his own suffering, a stoicism born of absolute devotion. As Logan began the slow journey back to consciousness over the next 2 days, his periods of awareness lengthened. Each time he opened his eyes, Titan was there, a constant in the shifting landscape of medical staff and police visitors. Captain Reynolds came daily, his attitude toward the shepherd noticeably changed. The commissioner wants to give Titan a commendation, he told Logan during one visit, first K9 in department history to receive the Medal of Valor. Logan, still weak but increasingly lucid, managed a small smile. About time you saw him as more than equipment. Reynolds had the grace to look embarrassed. You were right. I was wrong. That night proved what he is. The captain reached out, tentatively patting Titan's head. The shepherd allowed the contact, though his attention never strayed far from Logan. By the end of the week, Logan had been moved from ICU to a private room, his condition upgraded from critical to serious but stable. The investigation into Briggs' betrayal continued, with warrants out for his arrest. Logan provided what details he could remember from that night, though the memories were fragmented by trauma and blood loss. Emily, who had become a regular visitor even when off duty, brought coffee for Logan one morning, along with special treats for Titan. As the shepherd accepted the offering, she noticed him favoring his leg more than usual. Has anyone checked Titan's injury recently? She asked, concern creasing her brow. Logan frowned. What injury? Emily explained about the night Titan arrived at the hospital. The suspected fracture, how she'd splinted the leg. He should have had proper veterinary care, but he wouldn't leave you. I assumed once you were awake, someone would take him to be examined. Titan, Logan called softly, patting the bed beside him. The shepherd approached with the slight limp that had become so familiar everyone had stopped noticing it. Let me see, boy. Careful hands explored beneath the now dirty bandage Emily had applied days ago. What Logan found made his blood run cold. The skin was hot to the touch, swollen and tender. Titan flinched when Logan's fingers found a particular spot, a reaction the stoic dog rarely showed to pain. This isn't just a fracture, Logan said, alarm rising in his voice. Emily, can you help me check him more thoroughly? Together, they examined the shepherd more carefully than had been possible during the chaotic first days. Emily's gentle fingers found what everyone had missed, a small puncture wound hidden beneath the thick fur of Titan's shoulder, now inflamed and seeping. Could be from the shooting, Logan said, remembering how Titan had fought to get him out of the warehouse, or from the search for help. Whatever caused it, it's infected, Emily replied gravely. He needs antibiotics immediately, and proper veterinary care. Logan reached for his phone, but before he could call for help, Titan suddenly collapsed beside the bed, his strong body folding as if strings had been cut. The shepherd's breathing grew labored, whimpers escaping his usually stoic demeanor. "Titan!" Logan tried to rise from his bed, pulling at IV lines in his desperation to reach his partner. Emily pushed him back gently but firmly. "Don't tear your sutures," she warned. "I'll get help." She rushed to the door, calling urgently for assistance. As medical staff responded to the new emergency, this time for the four-legged patient who had become the hospital's unofficial mascot, Logan could only watch helplessly. The shepherd who had saved his life now fought for his own, his remarkable strength finally giving way to days of untreated injury and infection. "Hold on, buddy," Logan whispered, reaching down to touch Titan's fur one last time before the dog was lifted onto a gurney. "My turn to save you now." As they wheeled Titan away to the emergency veterinary service that had been called, Emily stayed behind with Logan, whose monitors showed the stress of the situation on his still recovering body. "He'll be okay," she assured him, though uncertainty tinged her voice. "He's strong." Logan's eyes remained fixed on the doorway where Titan had disappeared. He didn't show any signs. All this time he was injured, infected, and he never let on. His voice broke. "He was too busy watching over me to let anyone see his pain." Emily squeezed his hand, understanding the depth of his concern. "That's what love looks like," she said simply. "It doesn't count the cost." As the day progressed into evening, Logan received updates on Titan's condition. The news was sobering. The shepherd had developed a severe infection from what appeared to be a bullet graze sustained during the warehouse fight. Running miles on the fractured leg had worsened both injuries. The veterinarian was cautiously optimistic, but Titan's depleted state from days of minimal food and rest complicated his treatment. What should have been a celebration of Logan's improving health now transformed into a shared anxiety for Titan's survival. The shepherd who had performed one miracle might now need one of his own. 3 days passed without Titan at Logan's side. The hospital room felt cavernous in the shepherd's absence, the silence oppressive. Logan's physical recovery continued, his wound healing well enough for the doctors to begin discussing physical therapy. But his spirits remained low, his thoughts constantly with his canine partner. Emily brought updates twice daily from the veterinary hospital where Titan was fighting his own battle against infection and exhaustion. "He's responding to the antibiotics," she reported on the morning of the 4th day. "His fever's down. The vet says he's stabilizing." Logan nodded, grateful but still troubled. "Has he eaten?" Emily's hesitation told him everything. "Not really. They're considering a feeding tube if he doesn't start soon. The vet thinks," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "he's depressed, separated from you." The irony wasn't lost on Logan. After days of Titan refusing proper care to stay by his side, now their roles were reversed, Logan healing while his partner declined without him. The bond between them, forged through years of mutual trust and shared danger, had become a double-edged sword. "I need to see him," Logan declared, pushing himself straighter in the bed. His determination surprised even him, the first real spark of energy he'd felt since waking in the ICU. "You're not cleared for release yet," Emily reminded him gently. "Then we bring him here, or I discharge myself." There was no compromise in his tone, the same unyielding resolve that had once convinced a skeptical canine trainer to give him 2 more weeks with a dangerous rescue dog. Emily recognized the futility of arguing. "Let me talk to your doctor and the veterinarian. Maybe we can arrange something." Captain Reynolds arrived later that morning to find Logan sitting on the edge of his bed, attempting his first real physical therapy exercises under the guidance of a stern-faced therapist. The captain waited until the session ended before approaching, noting the lines of pain and determination on his officer's face. "How's the dog?" Reynolds asked, having heard about Titan's collapse. "Alive, fighting." Logan's answers were clipped, breath still coming hard from the exertion. Reynolds nodded, then surprised Logan by producing a folder from his briefcase. "Thought you should see this. Preliminary report on the warehouse operation." Logan accepted the folder with wary curiosity. Inside were surveillance photos, bank statements, and interview transcripts building a case against Briggs and 3 other officers suspected of corruption. The betrayal ran deeper than anyone had initially believed, an organized network within the department, selling information and protection to the West Side disciples for years. Jesus, Logan muttered, scanning the evidence. How did we miss this? They were careful, and we weren't looking at our own. Reynolds' voice carried the weight of personal responsibility. But there's something else you need to see. He turned to a specific page, pointing to a section highlighted in yellow. Ballistics report on the bullet they removed from you. Logan read the passage, then reread it, his blood running cold. This says the bullet came from Briggs' service weapon. He shot me, not some random gang member. From behind, Reynolds confirmed grimly, while you were focused on the men in front of you. The revelation landed like a physical blow. Briggs had been more than his colleague. He'd been as close to a friend as Logan allowed himself these days. They'd shared meals, covered each other on dangerous calls, spent countless hours in patrol cars trading stories. And all that time, Briggs had been corrupt, willing to murder a fellow officer to protect his secret. There's more, Reynolds continued, his expression strangely hesitant. The canine trainer who examined the scene found blood evidence suggesting Titan was injured during the confrontation, not just later while searching for help. Logan's head snapped up. What are you saying? The blood typing matches Titan, and there was GSR embedded in the fur samples from his shoulder. The captain met Logan's gaze directly. Briggs shot your dog too, Logan. And still, Titan got you out of there and found help, running on a fractured leg with a bullet graze. The room seemed to tilt momentarily as Logan absorbed this new information. The mental image of Titan, wounded but determined, dragging him to safety, then running miles through Chicago streets while bleeding himself. The shepherd's loyalty transcended anything Logan had witnessed in his years of police work or military service. I need to see him, Logan said again, with even greater conviction. Today, make it happen, Captain. Reynolds, seeing the steel in his officer's eyes, simply nodded. Consider it done. By afternoon, arrangements had been made. Logan, against medical advice but with his doctor's reluctant blessing, was wheeled to the hospital's garden courtyard. The small green space, normally used for ambulatory patients to enjoy fresh air, had been temporarily cleared of other visitors. At the far end, a van from the veterinary hospital waited. Logan insisted on standing as the van doors opened, leaning heavily on a walker, but determined to meet his partner on his feet. His surgical incision protested the movement, but he ignored it, focused entirely on the ramp being extended from the vehicle. The veterinarian emerged first, followed by a technician gently guiding Titan on a leash. The shepherd moved slowly, his injured leg immobilized in a professional cast, his powerful body thinner than it had been a week ago. But what struck Logan most was the change in Titan's demeanor. The usually alert, confident canine held his head lower, his eyes lacking their characteristic intensity, until he caught Logan's scent. The transformation was immediate and profound. Titan's head lifted sharply, ears forward, every muscle suddenly animated with renewed energy. The shepherd lunged forward with such force that the technician nearly lost his grip on the leash. "Let him go," Logan called, his own strength surging at the sight of his partner. The veterinarian nodded permission, and the technician released the leash. Titan bounded across the courtyard despite his cast, covering the distance to Logan in seconds. He didn't jump, his training holding even in excitement, but pressed against Logan's legs with his whole body, whining with uncharacteristic emotional abandon. Logan sank to one knee, arms encircling the shepherd's neck, burying his face in the familiar fur. "Hey, buddy," he whispered, voice tight with emotion he rarely allowed himself to show. "I've missed you too." Emily, watching from nearby, wiped tears from her eyes at the reunion. Even Reynolds looked away momentarily, clearing his throat. The shepherd's tail, normally held in the composed manner of a working dog, wagged with unrestrained joy, his entire body vibrating with the emotion of reconnection. The veterinarian approached cautiously, giving them a moment before speaking. "His vitals improved the moment he sensed you were near," she told Logan. "I've worked with police dogs for 15 years, and I've never seen a bond like this. It's extraordinary." Logan nodded, still focused on Titan, whose amber eyes hadn't left his face. What's the prognosis? The antibiotics are working. The bullet graze wasn't deep, but running on it caused significant contamination. The fractured radius is clean, should heal completely with proper rest. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. But there's something else we found during his treatment, something concerning. Logan looked up, one hand still buried in Titan's fur, anchoring them both. What is it? During the comprehensive exam, we found shadows on his lung x-rays. Given his age and symptoms, we ran additional tests. Her professional detachment wavered slightly. I'm sorry, but the results suggest early-stage hemangiosarcoma, a type of cancer common in German shepherds. The world seemed to stop momentarily. Logan stared at the veterinarian, then back at Titan, who continued to press against him, oblivious to the devastating pronouncement. What's the treatment? Logan asked, his voice steadier than he felt. Surgery to remove affected tissue, then chemotherapy. But even with aggressive treatment, the prognosis is, she hesitated, guarded. 6 months to a year, possibly longer with luck and good care. Logan's hand tightened reflexively in Titan's fur. 6 months. After everything the shepherd had done, saving his life, running miles while injured to find help, standing guard for days in the hospital, Logan might have only 6 more months with him. We can discuss treatment options in more detail when you're both stronger, the veterinarian added gently. For now, his immediate injuries are our priority. Logan nodded mechanically, still processing the cruel twist of fate. He'd faced death himself just days ago, only to learn now that the partner who saved him was facing his own mortality. The injustice of it burned in his chest. Can he stay with me? He asked, the question directed at everyone and no one in particular, in my hospital room, until we're both discharged. The veterinarian glanced at Emily, who nodded. I've already arranged it with administration. They've agreed to classify him as a therapy animal for your recovery. For the first time since receiving the news about Titan's diagnosis, Logan felt a flicker of hope. They would face this together, as they'd faced everything for the past 5 years. Hear that, boy? He said softly to the shepherd. We're sticking together from now on. Titan's only response was to press closer, as if trying to eliminate any space between them, his solid warmth a reassurance that some bonds transcended words, transcended even time's cruel limitations. The following week brought significant developments in both Logan's recovery and the department's investigation. Logan progressed to walking short distances with a cane, his determination to regain strength motivated largely by Titan's constant presence. The shepherd's own health improved dramatically once reunited with his handler, eating regularly, engaging with his surroundings, even playfully stealing Logan's hospital socks when the mood struck. But alongside their physical healing came heightened tension from the department. Commissioner Wallace himself visited Logan's room, his expression severe as he explained the situation that had developed during Logan's hospitalization. The corruption investigation has opened a can of worms, Wallace explained, pacing the small room while Titan watched him warily from his position beside Logan's bed. 4 officers under investigation, including Briggs, evidence tampering, protection rackets, collusion with the Westside Disciples. Any sign of Briggs? Logan asked. Nothing concrete. We believe he's fled the state, possibly the country. Interpol's been notified. Wallace stopped pacing, facing Logan directly. But that's not why I'm here. There's a situation regarding your K9. Logan's hand moved instinctively to Titan's head. What situation? Department policy is clear about canines who leave their handlers during active duty. Wallace's voice took on the formal tone of someone reciting regulations. Section 18.7 of the K9 Protocol states that any service dog who abandons their post during an operation is subject to immediate retirement and possible reallocation. Reallocation, Logan repeated flatly. You mean reassignment to another handler? In most cases, yes. In cases of severe protocol breach, euthanasia can be recommended. Logan's body tensed so violently that pain flared from his healing wound. Euthanasia? For the dog that saved my life? Are you out of your damn mind, Commissioner? Wallace held up a placating hand. I'm simply explaining the policy, Officer Carter. A hearing has been scheduled for next Monday to determine Titan's future with the department. A hearing. Logan's voice had gone dangerously quiet. Beside him, Titan sensed the shift in mood, his own body tensing in response to his handler's distress. "You're putting my dog on trial for saving my life." "For abandoning his post during an active operation," Wallace corrected. "The canine protocol exists for a reason. Dogs are trained to stay with their handlers no matter what. If they start making their own decisions in the field, then officers like me might actually survive being shot by corrupt cops," Logan interrupted coldly. "Titan didn't abandon me. He went for help when that was the only option left." Wallace sighed, his official demeanor slipping slightly. "For what it's worth, Carter, I agree with you. But there are officers in the department, particularly in canine training, who feel this sets a dangerous precedent. What if a dog leaves to get help but doesn't come back? What if they make the wrong decision in a critical moment? Titan made exactly the right decision. And next time, dogs can't reason like humans, Carter. They operate on training and instinct." Logan looked down at Titan, who gazed back with the same unwavering trust he'd shown for 5 years. "Some dogs see deeper than some humans ever will, Commissioner." Wallace straightened his tie, reverting to official posture. "The hearing is Monday at 10 a.m. I suggest you prepare a strong case if you want to keep your partner." He moved toward the door, then paused. "And Carter? Off the record, I hope you win." After Wallace left, Logan sat in silence, his hand resting on Titan's head. The unfairness of it all threatened to overwhelm him. Titan had performed a miracle, running miles on a broken leg with a bullet wound to save his life, only to face punishment for breaking protocol. And beneath that immediate injustice lay the even crueler reality of the veterinarian's diagnosis: cancer slowly growing in the loyal shepherd's body, stealing whatever future he might have left. Emily found him like that an hour later, still sitting motionless beside Titan. She took one look at his expression and sat beside him. "Bad news?" Logan explained the situation in clipped sentences, his anger barely contained. When he finished, Emily's own indignation matched his. "That's insane," she said. "After everything he did, the whole hospital staff has been following Titan's story. People have been bringing him treats, donations for his medical care. He's a hero. Not to the department. To them, he's equipment that malfunctioned." Logan's hand tightened slightly in Titan's fur. "Equipment with an expiration date, apparently." Emily looked confused, and Logan realized he hadn't told her about the cancer diagnosis yet. As he explained what the veterinarian had found, Emily's expression shifted from confusion to heartbreak. "Oh, Logan," she whispered, reaching for his hand. "I'm so sorry." 6 months to a year, he repeated, the words no less painful for having been spoken before. "After everything he's given, his loyalty, his service, saving my life, that's all the time he gets. What will you do?" Logan looked down at Titan, who had dozed off with his head resting against Logan's leg, trusting completely in his handler's protection. "Fight. For every day I can get with him, starting with this damn hearing." The determination in his voice must have carried to Titan even in sleep, because the shepherd's ear twitched, and he shifted slightly closer to Logan's side. Whatever battles lay ahead, departmental hearings, cancer treatments, the ongoing hunt for Briggs, they would face them together. As they always had. "I should tell you something else," Emily said after a moment, her tone cautious. "Martinez came by earlier while you were in physical therapy. He said they found something in Briggs' apartment during the investigation. A journal of sorts, with details about the corruption network." Logan raised an eyebrow. "And? Your name was in it. Briggs had been watching you for months, suspicious that you might be onto him. The night of the warehouse operation wasn't just a random betrayal. It was planned. He intended to kill you and make it look like gang violence." The revelation sent a chill through Logan. All those months of working together, sharing patrol cars, having coffee, while Briggs was calculating his murder. "Why tell me this now?" Emily met his gaze directly. "Because Martinez also said there was a specific note about Titan. Briggs wrote that the dog seemed suspicious of him, always watching, never fully relaxed around him like he was with other officers. He was planning to deal with Titan too." Logan looked down at his sleeping partner with new understanding. Titan had known all along, had sensed the betrayal before any human noticed. The shepherd's instincts had been right, as they always were. "He's always been the better cop," Logan said softly. "Better than me." Better than any of us. As if acknowledging the compliment, Titan sighed in his sleep. His powerful body relaxed in the security of his handler's presence. For this moment, at least, they were safe, together, healing. Tomorrow would bring new battles. Against department policy, against cancer, against the corruption that had nearly killed them both. But for now, in the quiet hospital room, there was only the unbreakable bond between a man and the dog who had saved his life in more ways than one. Monday morning arrived with the cold, clinical glare of fluorescent lights and the antiseptic smell of hospital corridors. Logan dressed slowly in the civilian clothes Emily had brought him, each movement carefully measured to avoid pulling at his healing wound. His discharge papers sat ready on the bedside table, a freedom that felt hollow given the circumstances. Titan watched from his position near the door, the shepherd's keen eyes tracking Logan's every move. His cast-encased leg extended awkwardly to one side. "Ready, boy?" Logan asked, fastening his watch, a ritual of normalcy in a world that had tilted irreversibly on its axis. Titan's tail gave a single, solemn wag. The shepherd seemed to understand the gravity of the day ahead, his usual animation subdued. Or perhaps, Logan thought with a stab of fear, it was something else entirely. Over the weekend, he'd noticed subtle changes in Titan's behavior. Slightly labored breathing after minimal exertion, periods of unusual lethargy between bursts of energy. Signs so minor they might be dismissed as recovery from his injuries, but Logan knew his partner too well to ignore them. Dr. Lydia Santos, the veterinary oncologist who had taken over Titan's care, confirmed his fears during her morning rounds. She examined Titan carefully, listening to his chest with a stethoscope, gently palpating his abdomen, reviewing the latest blood work. "The hemangiosarcoma is progressing faster than we anticipated," she explained, her voice professional but kind. "The latest scans show growth in the nodules we identified last week. His red blood cell count is lower, suggesting possible bleeding episodes." Logan absorbed this information with outward calm, years of military and police training keeping his expression neutral, while his insides twisted. What does that mean for his prognosis? Dr. Santos met his gaze directly, offering the respect of unvarnished truth. Without intervention, 3 to 4 months, possibly less. With aggressive treatment, surgery to remove the affected lung tissue, followed by chemotherapy, we might extend that to 6 months, maybe longer. "Quality of life?" Logan asked, the question feeling like ground glass in his throat. Surgery recovery would be difficult. Chemo has side effects: nausea, fatigue, immune suppression. Some dogs tolerate it well, others... She left the sentence unfinished. "It would mean more hospital stays, more separation from you." Logan glanced at Titan, who had pressed against his leg during the conversation, perhaps sensing the subject concerned him. The shepherd who had never left his side, who had run miles on a broken leg to save him, who had stood guard over him for days in the hospital, facing more separation, more pain, for a few extra months at best. "I need to think about it," Logan said finally. Dr. Santos nodded. "Of course, but I should warn you that time is a factor. The sooner we intervene, the better his chances." Just one more battle with an invisible clock, Logan thought bitterly. One more impossible choice. As Dr. Santos departed, Emily arrived to drive them to the hearing at police headquarters. Her expression told Logan she'd already heard the update on Titan's condition. No words were exchanged as she helped load Titan into her car, the shepherd requiring assistance now to manage the step-up with his cast. The drive passed in heavy silence, Chicago's busy streets a blur beyond the windows. The hearing room at headquarters felt cavernous and cold, its formal arrangement of tables and chairs reminiscent of a courtroom. Logan entered with Titan at his side, moving slowly to accommodate both his own recovery and the shepherd's injured leg. Officers and administrative staff filled the seats, some offering supportive nods, others watching with the detached curiosity of spectators at a sideshow. Captain Reynolds met them at the door. "How are you holding up?" he asked, concern evident in his weathered face. "Been better," Logan replied tersely. "Titan too." Reynolds nodded, understanding the double meaning. "The panel seems split. Commissioner Wallace is sympathetic, but the K-9 training division is pushing hard for protocol enforcement. They've brought in Lieutenant Gardner as their spokesman." Logan suppressed a groan. Gardner had always been a stickler for rules, viewing police dogs as tools rather than partners. Any word on Briggs? Nothing concrete. The manhunt continues. Reynolds hesitated. There's something else. The media caught wind of this hearing. They're painting it as hero dog on trial. The public reaction has been intense. As if to confirm his words, a commotion erupted outside the hearing room. Through the windows, Logan could see news vans and reporters gathered at the perimeter, cameras pointed toward the building. Social media had amplified Titan's story, transforming the shepherd into a symbol that transcended one night in an alley. "Great," Logan muttered. "Just what we needed." The hearing began with formal introductions and a recitation of the relevant canine protocols. Logan sat stiffly at the respondents' table, Titan lying at his feet, both of them battle-worn but dignified. Commissioner Wallace presided, flanked by 2 deputy commissioners and the head of internal affairs. Lieutenant Gardner sat opposite Logan, his posture rigid with righteous adherence to regulation. This hearing concerns K9 Officer Titan, badge number K457, and his actions on the night of January 17th, Wallace began. Specifically, whether his departure from Officer Carter's side during an active operation constitutes abandonment of duty under Section 18.7 of the K9 Protocol. Gardner spoke first, his presentation a meticulous breakdown of K9 training doctrine. The foundation of the police dog program is absolute obedience and unwavering loyalty, he argued. Canines are trained never to leave their handlers under any circumstances. This isn't arbitrary, it's essential for officer safety and operational integrity. If we allow exceptions, where do we draw the line? How do we know when a dog will stay and when it will go? Logan listened with mounting frustration as Gardner continued, reducing Titan's extraordinary actions to a policy violation, a dangerous precedent. When his turn came to speak, Logan rose slowly, pain from his healing wound a constant reminder of the night in question. 5 years ago, I met Titan in a shelter, he began, his voice steady despite the emotion behind it. He was scheduled for euthanasia. Too aggressive, they said. Too damaged. I saw something different. I saw a partner. Logan recounted their years together, the lives they'd saved, the cases they'd closed. Then he described the warehouse ambush in clinical detail, the betrayal, the shooting, the impossible situation Titan had faced. He didn't abandon me, Logan said, emotion finally cracking through his professional veneer. He made the only choice that could save my life, and he did it while injured himself. Logan turned to face the panel directly. We've since learned that Titan was shot during the confrontation. He was bleeding, in pain with a fractured leg. Still, he dragged me to safety, then ran miles to find help. That's not abandonment. That's the highest form of loyalty. The room fell silent as Logan's words landed. Even Gardner seemed momentarily disarmed. But the lieutenant quickly recovered, returning to his procedural argument with renewed vigor. As the debate continued, Titan suddenly stood, a low whine escaping his throat. Logan immediately knelt beside him, concerned. The shepherd's breathing had become labored, his powerful frame trembling slightly. "Titan?" Logan questioned softly, hands moving over his partner's body, seeking the source of distress. Then he saw it, a small spot of blood on the floor beneath Titan. As Logan watched in horror, the shepherd's legs buckled, his body collapsing in slow motion. "We need a vet," Logan shouted, catching Titan's weight as the dog fell. "Now!" Chaos erupted in the hearing room. Emily, who had been sitting in the back, rushed forward. "Internal bleeding," she said, quickly checking Titan's gums, which had gone pale. "It's the hemangiosarcoma. We need to get him to the hospital immediately." As officers cleared a path and Reynolds called for emergency transport, Logan cradled Titan's head in his lap, the shepherd's eyes fixed on him with unwavering trust despite the pain. The hearing, the department politics, the media circus outside, all of it faded to insignificance compared to the reality of Titan's mortality. "Stay with me, boy," Logan whispered, his voice breaking. "Please, just stay with me." The once mighty German shepherd, who had defied death and distance to save his handler, now fought his own desperate battle for breath, each labored inhalation, a testament to his will to remain by Logan's side. The cruelest irony, that Titan might die in the very proceeding meant to judge his loyalty, was not lost on anyone in the suddenly silent room. "Would you like me to continue with Part 8, Reversal Truth Revealed?" Retry PT8, vit thành đoạn văn, yêu cầu viết đủ số từ đã đưa ra số từ cần viết, viết bằng tiếng Anh. Lưu ý, bám sát outline, loại bỏ mọi yếu tố khoa học viễn tưởng. Edit: Police was dying, but his canine German Shepherd partner performed a miracle to save him. 8. Reversal: Truth revealed, 1,500 words. The veterinary emergency room buzzed with controlled urgency as Dr. Santos directed her team. Logan stood against the wall, hands still stained with Titan's blood, watching helplessly as the medical staff worked to stabilize his partner. The hearing had been abruptly adjourned, meaningless in the face of Titan's collapse. Commissioner Wallace himself had arranged the police escort that rushed them through Chicago traffic to the animal hospital. Internal hemorrhage from the tumor, Dr. Santos explained during a brief moment away from Titan's side. We're transfusing blood to replace what he's lost and administering medications to help his clotting factors. If we can stabilize him, we'll need to operate immediately to remove the affected tissue. Logan nodded mechanically, his mind unable to process much beyond the critical state of his partner. Emily stood beside him, her hand occasionally touching his arm in silent support. Captain Reynolds paced the waiting area, making calls to update the department and hold off the media that had followed them from headquarters. Hours passed in the purgatory of waiting. Officers from their precinct filtered in and out, offering awkward words of encouragement. Even Lieutenant Gardner appeared briefly, his regulatory zeal subdued by the reality of Titan's struggle. I wanted to say, Gardner began stiffly. Save it, Logan cut him off, too drained for politeness. He's fighting for his life because he spent every ounce of strength taking care of me instead of letting anyone see how badly he was hurt. That's the dog you want to punish for abandoning his post. Gardner had no response, retreating without another word. Near midnight, Dr. Santos emerged from the surgical suite, her scrubs stained with blood, but her expression cautiously optimistic. He's stable, she announced. We removed the ruptured portion of the tumor and stopped the bleeding. His vitals are improving, though he's not out of danger yet. Logan sagged against the wall, relief coursing through him like a physical force. When can I see him? He's in recovery now. Once he's moved to ICU, you can sit with him. Dr. Santos hesitated, then added, There's something else you should know. During surgery, we found evidence that the cancer has spread further than our initial scans suggested. Small nodules in his liver, his spleen. It confirms our suspicion that we're dealing with an aggressive form. The brief moment of relief evaporated. What does that mean for treatment options? We can discuss comprehensive plans tomorrow. For tonight, let's focus on getting him through the next 12 hours. Her kindness was evident, but so was the unspoken message. Don't count on miracles. When Logan was finally allowed into the ICU, the sight of Titan nearly broke him. The powerful shepherd lay unconscious, connected to monitors and IV lines, his chest rising and falling in shallow breaths, assisted by oxygen. A far cry from the vigilant guardian who had stood watch over Logan's hospital bed for days. I'm here, boy, Logan whispered, carefully settling his hand on Titan's head, avoiding the tubes and wires. I'm not going anywhere. As he maintained his vigil through the night, Emily bringing coffee and quiet company, Logan's mind replayed their years together. Training sessions in the rain, successful arrests, quiet evenings at home with Titan lying across his feet as he watched baseball. The shepherd had transformed Logan's life, drawing him out of the isolated shell he'd built after returning from Afghanistan. Through Titan, he had learned to trust again, to connect. The thought of losing him was unbearable. Dawn brought no improvement in Titan's condition, but no decline either, a precarious stability that Dr. Santos described as cautiously positive. Logan, refusing to leave his partner's side, received an unexpected visitor mid-morning. Commissioner Wallace entered the ICU hesitantly, his official demeanor softened by the setting. How is he? Wallace asked, standing awkwardly by the door. Fighting, Logan replied simply, not taking his eyes off Titan. Wallace approached slowly, observing the machines monitoring the shepherd's vital signs. The department's covering all his medical expenses. Unanimous vote this morning, and the hearing has been indefinitely postponed. Logan nodded, too exhausted for gratitude. There's something else, Wallace continued. Briggs has been located. That got Logan's attention. He looked up sharply. Where? trying to cross into Canada. Border Patrol picked him up based on our alert. Wallace paused. He's talking, Logan, making a deal with the prosecutor. He's named names, provided evidence on the entire corruption network. Why are you telling me this now? Because you deserve to know. And because he mentioned Titan specifically in his confession. Wallace pulled out his phone, opening a document. This is from the transcript. I knew the dog suspected something. Animals can sense things humans miss. Whenever I was near Carter, that shepherd watched me like he knew what I was planning. The night at the warehouse, I shot the dog first, then Carter. Couldn't risk the animal protecting him. Logan's hand tightened involuntarily on Titan's fur. He deliberately targeted Titan before me. Yes, and there's more. Briggs says he circled back to the alley where he thought you were dying, intending to finish the job, but the dog had dragged you to a different location. Titan outsmarted him, saving your life twice that night. The revelation settled over Logan like a physical weight. All this time, he'd assumed Titan had been injured during the chaotic struggle at the warehouse. But Briggs had deliberately shot his partner, seeing the shepherd as a threat to his plans. And still, despite the wound, Titan had fought to get Logan to safety, then run miles for help. I want to be at his arraignment, Logan said, his voice deadly calm. That might be difficult. The FBI has taken over the case due to the extent. The conversation was interrupted by a sudden commotion in the hospital corridor, raised voices, hurried footsteps. Logan tensed, years of police training alerting him to potential danger. Wallace turned toward the door, hand instinctively moving toward where his service weapon would normally be. Emily burst into the room, her face pale. Logan, there's... She never finished the sentence. A figure shoved past her, nearly knocking her down. Daniel Briggs? Disheveled and desperate, his eyes wild, a gun clutched in his trembling hand. How the hell did he? Wallace began, but Briggs cut him off. Shut up. Everyone shut up. Briggs's gaze darted around the room before settling on Logan. You should have died in that alley, Carter. You and your damn dog both. Logan rose slowly from his chair, positioning himself between Briggs and Titan's unconscious form. You're supposed to be in federal custody, Briggs. A hysterical laugh escaped Briggs. Amazing what you can accomplish with the right connections, even from inside a holding cell. His expression darkened. They think I'm going to roll over, name everyone involved. But some people you don't betray, Carter. Some people make witness protection look like a death sentence. Logan assessed the situation with cold precision. The ICU room offered little cover. Wallace was unarmed, as was Logan himself. Hospital security would be minutes away at best. Briggs, despite his agitated state, had a clear shot at anyone in the room. So what's your plan? Logan asked, keeping his voice steady. Shoot me, shoot the commissioner, then what? You'll never make it out of the building. Maybe not, but I'll finish what I started. Briggs raised the gun, aiming directly at Logan's chest. And this time, your dog can't save you. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. As Briggs's finger tightened on the trigger, Titan's eyes snapped open. With a surge of strength that defied his condition, the shepherd lunged from the bed, IVs and monitoring leads tearing free as he launched himself at Briggs. The gun discharged, the sound deafening in the confined space. Logan felt the bullet's heat as it passed inches from his head. Then Titan collided with Briggs, both of them crashing to the floor in a tangle of limbs and medical equipment. Briggs screamed as powerful jaws clamped onto his gun arm, forcing the weapon from his grasp. Logan moved instantly, diving for the fallen gun while Wallace tackled Briggs, pinning him down. Hospital security burst into the room seconds later, followed by uniformed officers responding to the gunshot. In the chaotic aftermath, as Briggs was subdued and handcuffed, Logan turned his attention to Titan. The shepherd lay on his side, breathing heavily, fresh blood staining his surgical site. But his eyes remained alert, fixed on Logan with the same unwavering trust they'd shown for 5 years. Stand down, Titan, Logan commanded gently, kneeling beside his partner. I got him. You did good, boy. So good. Titan relaxed at the familiar command, letting out a small whine as the adrenaline ebbed, leaving pain in its wake. Dr. Santos rushed in, immediately assessing the damage to her patient. Get me a gurney! She shouted to her staff. We need to get him back into surgery now. As they carefully lifted Titan onto the gurney, the shepherd's eyes never left Logan's face. Even in his weakened state, even after surgery and blood loss and cancer, Titan had found the strength to do what he was born to do: protect his partner, no matter the cost to himself. Commissioner Wallace, watching from the doorway as Titan was rushed back to surgery, shook his head in disbelief. "I've been in law enforcement for 30 years, he said quietly to Logan, "and I've never seen anything like that. It's like he heard Briggs threaten you, understood the danger, and responded, even while unconscious and critically injured." Logan didn't reply. Words seemed inadequate to describe the bond that had just saved his life once again. Instead, he followed the gurney carrying his partner, determined that whatever battle Titan faced next, he wouldn't face it alone. For the first time since the diagnosis, a fragile hope kindled in Logan's chest. Titan had defied death, defied medical expectations, defied the limitations of his species, all out of loyalty to his handler. Perhaps, just perhaps, there were more miracles to come. The veterinary emergency room buzzed with controlled urgency as Dr. Santos directed her team. Logan stood against the wall, hands still stained with Titan's blood, watching helplessly as the medical staff worked to stabilize his partner. The hearing had been abruptly adjourned, meaningless in the face of Titan's collapse. Commissioner Wallace himself had arranged the police escort that rushed them through Chicago traffic to the animal hospital. "Internal hemorrhage from the tumor," Dr. Santos explained during a brief moment away from Titan's side. "We're transfusing blood to replace what he's lost and administering medications to help his clotting factors. If we can stabilize him, we'll need to operate immediately to remove the affected tissue." Logan nodded mechanically, his mind unable to process much beyond the critical state of his partner. Emily stood beside him, her hand occasionally touching his arm in silent support. Captain Reynolds paced the waiting area, making calls to update the department and hold off the media that had followed them from headquarters. Hours passed in the purgatory of waiting. Officers from their precinct filtered in and out, offering awkward words of encouragement. Even Lieutenant Gardner appeared briefly, his regulatory zeal subdued by the reality of Titan's struggle. "I wanted to say—" Gardner began stiffly. "Save it." Logan cut him off, too drained for politeness. "He's fighting for his life because he spent every ounce of strength taking care of me, instead of letting anyone see how badly he was hurt. That's the dog you want to punish for abandoning his post." Gardner had no response, retreating without another word. Near midnight, Dr. Santos emerged from the surgical suite, her scrubs stained with blood, but her expression cautiously optimistic. "He's stable," she announced. "We removed the ruptured portion of the tumor and stopped the bleeding. His vitals are improving, though he's not out of danger yet." Logan sagged against the wall, relief coursing through him like a physical force. "When can I see him?" "He's in recovery now. Once he's moved to ICU, you can sit with him." Dr. Santos hesitated, then added, "There's something else you should know. During surgery, we found evidence that the cancer has spread further than our initial scans suggested. Small nodules in his liver, his spleen. It confirms our suspicion that we're dealing with an aggressive form." The brief moment of relief evaporated. "What does that mean for treatment options? We can discuss comprehensive plans tomorrow. For tonight, let's focus on getting him through the next 12 hours. Her kindness was evident, but so was the unspoken message: don't count on miracles. When Logan was finally allowed into the ICU, the sight of Titan nearly broke him. The powerful shepherd lay unconscious, connected to monitors and IV lines, his chest rising and falling in shallow breaths assisted by oxygen, a far cry from the vigilant guardian who had stood watch over Logan's hospital bed for days. "I'm here, boy," Logan whispered, carefully settling his hand on Titan's head, avoiding the tubes and wires. "I'm not going anywhere." As he maintained his vigil through the night, Emily bringing coffee and quiet company, Logan's mind replayed their years together. Training sessions in the rain, successful arrests, quiet evenings at home with Titan lying across his feet as he watched baseball. The shepherd had transformed Logan's life, drawing him out of the isolated shell he'd built after returning from Afghanistan. Through Titan, he had learned to trust again, to connect. The thought of losing him was unbearable. Dawn brought no improvement in Titan's condition, but no decline either. a precarious stability that Dr. Santos described as cautiously positive. Logan, refusing to leave his partner's side, received an unexpected visitor mid-morning. Commissioner Wallace entered the ICU hesitantly, his official demeanor softened by the setting. "How is he?" Wallace asked, standing awkwardly by the door. "Fighting," Logan replied simply, not taking his eyes off Titan. Wallace approached slowly, observing the machines monitoring the shepherd's vital signs. "The department's covering all his medical expenses. Unanimous vote this morning, and the hearing has been indefinitely postponed." Logan nodded, too exhausted for gratitude. "There's something else," Wallace continued. "Briggs has been located." That got Logan's attention. He looked up sharply. "Where?" "Trying to cross into Canada. Border Patrol picked him up based on our alert." Wallace paused. "He's talking, Logan, making a deal with the prosecutor. He's named names, provided evidence on the entire corruption network." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because you deserve to know, and because he mentioned Titan specifically in his confession." Wallace pulled out his phone, opening a document. "This is from the transcript. I knew the dog suspected something. Animals can sense things humans miss. Whenever I was near Carter, that shepherd watched me like he knew what I was planning. The night at the warehouse, I shot the dog first, then Carter. Couldn't risk the animal protecting him." Logan's hand tightened involuntarily on Titan's fur. "He deliberately targeted Titan before me." "Yes, and there's more. Briggs says he circled back to the alley where he thought you were dying, intending to finish the job, but the dog had dragged you to a different location. Titan outsmarted him, saving your life twice that night." The revelation settled over Logan like a physical weight. All this time, he'd assumed Titan had been injured during the chaotic struggle at the warehouse. But Briggs had deliberately shot his partner, seeing the shepherd as a threat to his plans. And still, despite the wound, Titan had fought to get Logan to safety, then run miles for help. "I want to be at his arraignment," Logan said, his voice deadly calm. "That might be difficult. The FBI has taken over the case due to the extent." The conversation was interrupted by a sudden commotion in the hospital corridor, raised voices, hurried footsteps. Logan tensed, years of police training alerting him to potential danger. Wallace turned toward the door, hand instinctively moving toward where his service weapon would normally be. Emily burst into the room, her face pale. "Logan, there's—" She never finished the sentence. A figure shoved past her, nearly knocking her down. Daniel Briggs, disheveled and desperate, his eyes wild, a gun clutched in his trembling hand. "How the hell did he?" Wallace began, but Briggs cut him off. "Shut up! Everyone shut up!" Briggs's gaze darted around the room before settling on Logan. "You should have died in that alley, Carter. You and your damn dog both." Logan rose slowly from his chair, positioning himself between Briggs and Titan's unconscious form. "You're supposed to be in federal custody, Briggs." A hysterical laugh escaped Briggs. "Amazing what you can accomplish with the right connections, even from inside a holding cell." His expression darkened. "They think I'm going to roll over, name everyone involved. But some people you don't betray, Carter. Some people make witness protection look like a death sentence." Logan assessed the situation with cold precision. The ICU room offered little cover. Wallace was unarmed, as was Logan himself. Hospital security would be minutes away at best. Briggs, despite his agitated state, had a clear shot at anyone in the room. "So what's your plan?" Logan asked, keeping his voice steady. "Shoot me, shoot the commissioner. Then what? You'll never make it out of the building." "Maybe not, but I'll finish what I started." Briggs raised the gun, aiming directly at Logan's chest. "And this time, your dog can't save you." What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. As Briggs's finger tightened on the trigger, Titan's eyes snapped open. With a surge of strength that defied his condition, the shepherd lunged from the bed, IVs and monitoring leads tearing free as he launched himself at Briggs. The gun discharged, the sound deafening in the confined space. Logan felt the bullet's heat as it passed inches from his head. Then Titan collided with Briggs, both of them crashing to the floor in a tangle of limbs and medical equipment. Briggs screamed as powerful jaws clamped onto his gun arm, forcing the weapon from his grasp. Logan moved instantly, diving for the fallen gun while Wallace tackled Briggs, pinning him down. Hospital security burst into the room seconds later, followed by uniformed officers responding to the gunshot. In the chaotic aftermath, as Briggs was subdued and handcuffed, Logan turned his attention to Titan. The shepherd lay on his side, breathing heavily, fresh blood staining his surgical site. But his eyes remained alert, fixed on Logan with the same unwavering trust they'd shown for 5 years. "Stand down, Titan," Logan commanded gently, kneeling beside his partner. "I got him." "You did good, boy. So good." Titan relaxed at the familiar command, letting out a small whine as the adrenaline ebbed, leaving pain in its wake. Dr. Santos rushed in, immediately assessing the damage to her patient. "Get me a gurney," she shouted to her staff. "We need to get him back into surgery now." As they carefully lifted Titan onto the gurney, the shepherd's eyes never left Logan's face. Even in his weakened state, even after surgery and blood loss and cancer, Titan had found the strength to do what he was born to do: protect his partner, no matter the cost to himself. Commissioner Wallace, watching from the doorway as Titan was rushed back to surgery, shook his head in disbelief. "I've been in law enforcement for 30 years, he said quietly to Logan. "And I've never seen anything like that. It's like he heard Briggs threaten you, understood the danger, and responded, even while unconscious and critically injured." Logan didn't reply. Words seemed inadequate to describe the bond that had just saved his life once again. Instead, he followed the gurney carrying his partner, determined that whatever battle Titan faced next, he wouldn't face it alone. For the first time since the diagnosis, a fragile hope kindled in Logan's chest. Titan had defied death, defied medical expectations, defied the limitations of his species, all out of loyalty to his handler. Perhaps, just perhaps, there were more miracles to come. Spring sunshine streamed through the hospital windows, casting warm rectangles of light across Titan's recovery bed. The German shepherd dozed peacefully, his chest rising and falling in the steady rhythm that had become Logan's favorite sound in the world. 3 weeks had passed since Briggs's desperate attack in the ICU. 3 weeks of surgeries, treatments, and cautious optimism as Titan defied medical expectations at every turn. Dr. Santos entered the room carrying Titan's latest test results, her expression brighter than it had been in weeks. "His blood work is improving," she reported, handing the papers to Logan. "Red cell count is stabilizing, liver values better than expected. The combination therapy seems to be working." Logan studied the numbers, which had gradually become familiar language to him. The tumor markers? Still present, but lower than last week. She sat on the edge of Titan's bed, gently checking his surgical incision. "I won't sugarcoat this. He still has cancer, and it's still aggressive, but his response to treatment has been remarkable. Most dogs with his diagnosis wouldn't have survived that second surgery, let alone shown this kind of recovery." "He's not most dogs," Logan said simply. Dr. Santos smiled, scratching behind Titan's ears. The shepherd's eyes opened lazily at the touch, his tail thumping once against the blankets. "No argument there. I've started calling him our miracle dog around the hospital." The miracle extended beyond Titan's medical recovery. After Briggs's attempted attack on Logan and the commissioner, public support for Titan had exploded. News coverage transformed the shepherd into a national symbol of loyalty and courage. The mayor himself had visited, presenting Titan with a special commendation and declaring the K9 protocol would be revised and renamed the Titan Rule, allowing service dogs to seek help when handlers were incapacitated. Even more meaningful to Logan was the community's response. When word spread about Titan's cancer treatment costs, donations poured in from across the country. Police officers, military veterans, and ordinary citizens contributed to a fund that now exceeded all possible medical expenses. Letters and gifts arrived daily: custom beds, gourmet dog treats, handmade blankets, each accompanied by notes expressing gratitude for Titan's service and hopes for his recovery. Emily arrived as Dr. Santos was leaving, carrying coffee and the newspaper. Her visits had become a daily constant, her relationship with Logan evolving from friendly support to something deeper, neither had yet defined. "Front page again," she announced, showing Logan the headline, "Hero K9 continues remarkable recovery, corruption trial set for June." Beneath it was a photo of Titan from yesterday's therapy session, looking alert and engaged as he worked with his rehabilitation specialist. Logan accepted the coffee with a grateful nod. "Any updates on Briggs?" No bail, federal custody at an undisclosed location. His testimony has led to 12 arrests so far, including 2 judges and a deputy commissioner. Emily settled into the chair beside Titan's bed, reaching out to stroke his fur. The shepherd leaned into her touch. His affection for her, now nearly equaling his devotion to Logan. "Captain Reynolds called while you were in the shower. He wants to talk to you about your return to duty options." Logan had been on administrative leave since the shooting, his own physical recovery progressing alongside Titan's. The department had been patient, understanding that Logan wouldn't consider returning to work until Titan's condition stabilized. Now that moment was approaching, bringing with it decisions neither had anticipated making so soon. Later that afternoon, as Titan napped in a patch of sunlight, Captain Reynolds visited the hospital room that had become their temporary home. The captain had softened considerably toward Titan since the night of the shooting, often bringing specialty treats and sitting quietly with the shepherd when Logan needed breaks. "How's our hero today?" Reynolds asked, his gruff voice gentle as he observed Titan's sleeping form. "Better, stronger, more like himself." Logan gestured for Reynolds to sit. "Emily mentioned you wanted to discuss return options." Reynolds nodded, getting straight to business. "Commissioner Wallace has authorized several possibilities, given the unique circumstances." He outlined the options. Return to active duty with a new K-9 partner, transfer to training division to work with recruit officers, or administrative role overseeing K-9 program development. Logan listened without interrupting, though the decision had crystallized in his mind weeks ago. When Reynolds finished, Logan simply shook his head. "Thank you, but I'm submitting my resignation." Reynolds looked genuinely surprised. "Resignation? Carter, you're one of our best. What happened with Briggs wasn't your fault. Nobody blames you for." "It's not about blame," Logan interrupted. "It's about priorities." He glanced at Titan, who had awakened and was watching them with intelligent eyes. "However much time he has left, whether it's months or years, I'm spending it with him. And then I'm going to help other dogs like him." Understanding dawned on Reynolds' face. "The foundation Emily mentioned." Logan nodded. The idea had come during one of their late-night conversations, a training center for rescue dogs with potential for service work, inspired by Titan's journey from death row at the shelter to decorated police K-9. The donation fund, far exceeding Titan's medical needs, would serve as seed money. "Second chances for dogs who deserve them," Logan confirmed, "and for the people who need them." Reynolds was quiet for a moment, then extended his hand. "The department's losing its best team, but I understand." As they shook hands, he added, "Wallace authorized me to tell you, Titan's badge is officially retired, not revoked. He keeps his honors and his status. First time in department history." Logan swallowed against the unexpected emotion that tightened his throat. He earned it. After Reynolds departed, Logan sat beside Titan on the bed, the shepherd shifting to make room in a gesture so familiar it ached. 5 years ago, a damaged soldier had met a damaged dog, neither expected to amount to much. Now they sat together, both battle-scarred but undefeated, with an uncertain future that somehow felt rich with possibility. Emily found them that way an hour later, returning with dinner and plans for the small house she'd helped Logan find. Single level for Titan's mobility, large yard for his comfort, close to the veterinary hospital for his ongoing treatment. She paused in the doorway, taking in the tableau of man and dog, sunlight gilding them both. "Ready to go home tomorrow?" she asked, setting down the food bags. Logan looked up, his hand resting on Titan's sturdy shoulder. The word home held new meaning now. Not the empty apartment he'd occupied before, but a place built around what mattered most. Around loyalty that transcended words, around second chances and hard-won wisdom, around the miracle of finding family in unexpected forms. "Yeah," he said, as Titan's tail thumped steadily against the bed. "We're ready." 5 years later, on a crisp autumn morning, Logan stood on the training field of the Titan Foundation, watching a class of rescue dogs work with their handlers. Former soldiers, trauma survivors, people needing healing as much as the animals they trained. The foundation had grown beyond his initial vision, now occupying 10 acres with facilities for training, rehabilitation, and community education. Emily called to him from the main building, where she managed the Foundation's daily operations while maintaining her nursing career part-time. Their wedding photo hung in the reception area, featuring a distinguished gray-muzzled Titan as best man, proudly wearing his Medal of Valor on his collar. The German Shepherd himself dozed on a custom orthopedic bed on the porch, his once powerful frame now elderly but still dignified. The cancer had returned twice, each time fought with cutting-edge treatments funded by the Foundation's supporters. The prognosis of months had stretched to years. 5 miraculous years of borrowed time, each day a gift neither Logan nor Titan took for granted. As Logan approached, Titan lifted his head, eyes bright with recognition despite the cataracts clouding them. The bond between them remained undiminished by time or illness, if anything, stronger for all they had survived together. "Looking good out there," Emily said, nodding toward the training field where a young pit bull mix who reminded Logan of Titan in his early days was mastering search commands. "Sanchez thinks that one might be ready for certification next month." Logan nodded, settling beside Titan on the porch swing. The shepherd shifted to rest his head on Logan's lap, a position of trust that still humbled him after all these years. From here, they could watch new partnerships forming, new miracles unfolding, second chances in action. "You started something amazing," Emily said softly, her hand finding Logan's. "Both of you." Logan looked down at his partner, the dog who had saved his life in every way that mattered. Titan gazed back with the same unwavering loyalty he'd shown since the day they met. Miracle was the right word, Logan thought, not just for that desperate night in an alley, but for everything that followed. For the healing that came from dedicating yourself completely to another's well-being, for the family they had built together, for the legacy that would continue long after them both. "No," Logan replied, stroking the shepherd's graying muzzle. "We did it together, the way we've done everything." Titan's tail thumped in agreement, once, twice, a language as clear to Logan as any human words. In the distance, new handlers called to their dogs, new bonds forming with each command, each successful task. But here on the porch, in the autumn sunshine, there was just a man and his dog, both battle-scarred, both survivors, both home. In the quiet moments of life, we recognize that loyalty isn't measured by words, but by actions when everything is at stake. Titan's story reminds us that the deepest bonds often come from the most unexpected places, from creatures who ask for nothing yet give everything. As we age, we understand the value of unwavering companionship. We've seen friends come and go, felt the aches of betrayal, and weathered the storms of uncertainty. But have we known the kind of loyalty that would run miles on broken legs to save us? This is more than a story about a heroic dog. It's about the miracle that happens when we open our hearts to those society has cast aside. It's about second chances, for damaged soldiers, for dangerous shelter dogs, for all of us who carry invisible wounds. In a world that often feels divided and cold, Titan teaches us that love doesn't count the cost, that loyalty transcends words, that sometimes our greatest purpose is simply being there for someone who needs us. May we all find and be the Titan in someone's life. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Leave a like and comment below what you thought of the story. See you in the next video.